Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new SH Figuarts Avengers Endgame Iron Man Mark 85 Final Battle Edition. You guys know I'm a big Iron Man collector. I'm a big fan of Iron Man in general. I wish there was more War Machine stuff, but there's not. Anyway, I haven't been purchasing a lot of the SH Figuarts lately because I feel like, especially with the movie figures, they haven't been trying as hard. We've had a lot of the same figures get reissued with different accessories, and they had a lot of problems, and I was just kind of done with spending that much money on figures with problems. But I really wanted an Endgame Iron Man. I love the suit design. I couldn't get the initial release. I'm still going to try to track that down probably. I wanted to get it, so I got this one. And it does some things really well. Especially I think in the accessory department, they nailed it. We'll get to that. But there are some things on this figure which are the perfect example of why I stopped collecting some of these things. They're just so poorly designed and implemented that it's not fun. And unfortunately, I have to talk about that, which isn't always fun, but I know you guys come to these reviews for the information, and I'm going to provide it, and you can do with it what you will. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just shy of 6.5 inches, which makes him, make sure he's not stretched out, which makes him pretty close to 16, let's say 16.25 centimeters. I just want to take a moment to point out that this guy right here is supposed to be that suit right there. And you can see that it's obviously supposed to be that suit, but the level of accuracy is already like, I get that this is just a drawing, it's not the actual thing from the movie, but that's pretty close. It's not really the right look, especially the head. The eyes are very blocky compared to more slender slits. Whatever, that's not a big deal. We'll get to the rest. It just doesn't have the right oomph. It doesn't capture it anywhere near as well as I had hoped. But anyway, as far as the aesthetic goes, his dirtiness, his battle damage is nowhere near as bad as Captain America's, whose was terrible. His is perfectly acceptable. It's not that noticeable even. It's pretty minimal, and I think that's okay for most people. I do still want to get a plain one because what battle damage is there, mostly the dirtiness, it in a lot of ways just comes off as a bad paint job. It doesn't look deliberate. And I know that dirtiness wouldn't be deliberate, but the paint job has to. And this more so just looks like they applied a really crappy wash on the figure. Not anywhere near as bad as Cap, but this is still not great, and it does detract from the figure. Other things I noticed, I really love the red and the gold that they went with. I think it's awesome. That's great. The detail work is all very clean. That's awesome. His arms are bent. And I get why they did it, but they're not supposed to be like this. They're not supposed to go out. It's so weird the way they have it going out at the elbow. Like, anatomically speaking, I get why it's like that, but they did it way too much. It should not stick out that far at all. I'm gonna force it in a little bit, and it'll instantly look better. It's just so weird that they have it bent out. I don't know why they did that. The hips look great like this, by the way, so from the aesthetic standpoint, that's awesome. A lot of good stuff aesthetically speaking. The eyes are painted, by the way. We don't always get that. Sometimes we get the clear eyes like this, and they don't look good. I feel like they should be the same, though, either way. So if they're going to paint the eyes, paint the chest. If they're not going to paint the chest, don't paint the eyes. Something along those lines. I do like the eyes, though. I wanted to like this figure so much more. I'm so disappointed in so many ways. Alright, let's look at the last thing, which to me is just extra terrible. And I'm going to bring out some other ones to compare for you real quick after we get through with this. Look at his ankles. This is a high-end, expensive collectible. Look at the ankles. What ankles? There's nothing there. It's just some kibbly joint. It makes his feet look like clown feet. How? How did they design it to look like that? What the... That makes me mad. This is an expensive collectible. High-end, supposed to be like the cream of the crop. SH Figuarts, you don't get better than that when it comes to expensive, high-end, high-articulated collectibles. These ankles are disgusting from an aesthetic standpoint, and I'll show you how much range they have later, which isn't enough to justify it. But look how bad that looks. It's ridiculous. Alright, before I give a rating on the aesthetic, let me pull out a couple other ones, and I'll just show you some key features. Look at his arms. They don't bend out. This isn't one of the better, I guess it's one of the better ones. It's not one of the best ones though, but his arms don't bend out. His ankles are hidden by panels so they don't look all skinny and shrimpy. They forgot that this guy didn't have panels to hide and didn't care. They just went with it anyway. Here's one of, if not the best Iron Man figures they released. Same ankles, completely hidden. His arms don't bend out either. They're nice and straight. I have the elbows bent, but they don't curve out. So there's another excellent release. This one's a decent release. Here's another excellent release also. Maybe a little bit more stylized than some people would like. His arms are nice and straight. His ankles are nicely hidden. And I get that it's because of the armor, but they're making the figure. They have to account for the design. You cannot do that. It looks so stupid. The suit design's not included. That one's probably the worst looking, but that one's probably the second worst because of the goofy elbows and ankles. Like, you can pose away some stuff, sure, but that's pretty egregious, especially since what's Iron Man suits known for? That was really well worded, grammar. Halls of armor is a thing that they're pushing with this line, and so if you want to set this guy in a hall of armor, it's going to look derpy as hell. So aesthetically speaking, I'm going to give this, there's some greatness here, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of bad. I'm going to give it only a 6 out of 10. Those ankles kill it, the bent elbows kill it. The eyes being off I can live with, but come on, guys, come on. Now, the saving grace on this figure, the accessories. We do have an alternate head, which isn't an Iron Man. Nope, well, I guess, kinda I am Iron Man situation head. Tony Stark head, which is, I think, pretty darn good. It is really nicely done. There's some weird paint choices behind the ears, but the hair is not metallic and it looks great, unlike the supposed Chris Evans head, which looks terrible. Very nicely done. We have a buttload of hands. We have 2 fist hands, 2 karate chop hands, 2 relaxed hands, 2 repulsor peg hands, 2 repulsor hands that are painted and not pegged, and oh my gosh, am I happy to have that finally. We almost never get that, and it's a great thing. We also have a hand with a sword thingy built in. I don't know what that thing's called. A nano blade. I'm going to call it that. Very nicely done. I like it. We also have a hand with a shield thingy built in. I'm going to call that a nano shield, and that's also very nicely done. I like that. And then we have his backpack piece, which can replace a little tab on his back, and it gives him the spider blaster thingies. I'm going to call those Nano Blasters. And the cool thing about that is they are articulated. That's not the cool thing. That's just for adjusting. But the cool thing about that is we get a buttload of Blasty Blasts, which are for his hands, his feet, and his Nano Blasters. And they are just sublime. They're wonderful. Did I use that word correctly? I think I did. I love it. They're so iridescent and they look great. Wonderful accessories. I love it. No flight stand though. What the heck? That blows big chunks. But everything else is great, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think a flight stand would be necessary for somebody like Iron Man. We didn't get one. Okay, so accessories are good. Aesthetic is half good. Let's talk about the articulation, because that has been an issue for some of their figures. They've done it right, they've done it wrong. Some of them good, some of them bad. Let's see how this works. The head, well, I'll show you. The neck connects on a big ball peg right there, which should be good. It should get some range. Let's see how that works. Side to side, we get more than you would expect, or at least more than I would expect. Front to back is good. It leans, that's nice. The ball peg for the head on the neck, not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It may be enough. It probably would be just enough, but it definitely could be better implemented. You can't rotate the head to the side for crap. That's it. I mean, that's, like I said, it's probably enough to get by, but these are high-end figures again. Let's remember, not being able to rotate the head is kind of a thing. You should be able to do it. That blows. For the shoulders, we have one of those floaty caps. As far as I can tell, there's not really a, I mean, it feels like a slip joint, but they don't advertise it as having one, so I don't know that it, I guess it is technically, but you don't really need it, so I don't know. Maybe that's just the double ball peg offset situation. I don't know. Either way, you can move the shoulders around in there. You can raise the arms up. That's all good. They do go up or down like that. Don't do that. It looks goofy. That looks good. Full rotation. That's all fine. Bicep swivel. Unless you bind over here, you don't get very much bicep swivel that way. And going this way, unless you're going to force this over this, you can't really get much going that way. It's probably enough again, but still, we're making exceptions for almost everything here so far. The elbows are pretty nice. I'll give them that. That's pretty good. Think they could have implemented this a little bit better, but that's still good range, and that's fine. Tiny little ball pegs for the wrists. I don't understand how that keeps happening on some figures and not others. It's just... that doesn't look high-end. There's a gap all the way around. When you pose it, it looks good from the one angle, but then there's an even bigger gap. So if you're going to do a ball peg, you have to do it right. This is not right. Little tiny ones don't get the job done. Bigger ball peg or a ball hinge. That's just goofy looking. Now we come to the torso, which has been probably the biggest, well maybe the hips were, but the torsos and hips have been big issues for these figures in recent history. So let's see what happens here. We get this giant gap in the back in order to use the range, to use the hinge that's in there. Which, I get it, you don't have to use it, so that's fine, you can argue away that. But the ball peg that's in there gives you minimal range. You can lean it side to side a little bit, that's good. But front to back, you don't really have any lean on that ball peg. So you have to use the hinge, and then at any amount of posing really, you just get that giant gap. So that's not great. Rotation is very minimal, and you can hear it. It's not clicking, that's just binding, so it's very minimal. Down here we have the two separate pieces. This is technically a floating piece. You can see it doesn't actually extend up, it just moves up and down. So we have another ball peg down here, which does give him some more range, but it's floppy. It's really floppy. You get a lot of range going forward and back. I feel like they way over designed this. You could have just used a basic ball peg or two, but either way, it's really floppy. That's not acceptable at this price point, at this level, and this is why I stopped buying these Figuarts movie figures, the MCU figures. They just haven't had enough of the quality that they should have. It leans a little bit side to side down there. It still doesn't rotate for crap down there. You have to do some overlapping and forcing, and then you can get it to rotate all the way around. But that doesn't even look good. Why isn't it just a basic ball peg? Why do we have like 15 different parts that have to move around for a basic waist twist? Over-designed, poorly implemented. It looks good neutral, I'll give it that. Same thing for the hips. The hips look really good neutral. We do have the hinge, which drops them down. Then you can bring the legs out. It's not that far, really. I mean, it's far enough, but it's not that far. And you can bring them out almost the same distance without dropping them down. So let's leave that there. Bringing the legs up, you get a big gap, but you can kind of use the ball peg to offset hip in there. Kind of. That doesn't really work. So there's a ball peg down here that lets this silver piece move independent. I guess it's kind of silver of the leg, and that kind of hides the gap. You can get the leg up. It's still gappy. It's certainly not the worst we've seen, but they still haven't figured out a good Iron Man hip, unfortunately. So there's that ball peg I was telling you about. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get what we're doing here. We're not really accomplishing much, and we've got all these extra over-designed joints. It works well enough. That's fine for the hips. It's okay. Thigh swivel is there. Double jointed knee. It's one of the best Iron Man knees that we've seen from them, so that's good. That makes me happy. And then we get to these ankles, which rotate for no apparent reason, because ankles don't really need to do that. But we have the hinge, which goes pretty far forward, and pretty far back, that's fine. But the ankle rocker is just a little tiny one. Little tiny ankle rocker. And because of the way it's designed, you can't like get more out of it by rotating it and spinning it around. So you get this really terrible looking ankle, and all it's good for is forward and back range, which any ankle can achieve. So yeah, there's a whole lot on this figure that looks like it's going to be awesome, and then when you actually go to use it, it's finicky, it doesn't work, or I guess some of it works. But finicky doesn't work is really the name of the brand here. Name of the game. I don't know, guys. Like, I'm gonna get the people. You're so negative. I didn't make the figure. I'm just showing you what it is. That's what's negative. The figure, not me. I wanted it to be good. I paid for it because I wanted it to be good. It wasn't good. Articulation on this guy gets like a 6. It's not good, especially for the price point and the brand. It's not good. Oh gosh, I don't know. How do you guys feel about these kind of things? Does everybody just ignore all the stuff that I'm pointing out? Or do you guys feel the same way? Or do you do not either of those things? Or maybe a combination of both of those things? Let me know. I'm very curious in the comment section. Like, standing neutral right there, some of the terrible things look okay. But some of the normal okay things look terrible. Like, that doesn't look like an Iron Man figure I want to own. And it looked so cool in the photos, and it's just not in real life, and it's so bummery. I'm so bummered. Oh man, the hips look so great like that, but then, I mean, I guess the hips are good for an Iron Man figure for them, but it's still not as good as I expected after them making them for like 10 years, about 1,000 different iterations. Whatever. Alright, I did rate the articulation. Final verdict on this figure, 6. The accessories are pretty awesome. Some of the aesthetic is awesome, a little bit of the articulation is awesome, but everything that's not awesome is pretty darn bad. I'm so bummed out. I paid so much money for this, and it doesn't make me happy. I said that to be funny, but it's also kind of true. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you did not, please give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should consider it, because there's lots more where this came from. I've got thousands of videos already on the channel. And on most days, I have new videos just coming out all the time. So come back for all of that good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.